Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening. So we have few other members joining in from different region. So it's a good morning over there. So thank you so much for joining today's exciting webinar. And the topic of webinar is the future of digital payments, innovation, security, and user experience. So we are thrilled to have a distinguished panel of experts with us today to discuss how payment orchestration is evolving and what lies ahead, especially as a business around the world, and how we seek to streamline the payment processes and expand globally. So this webinar, we are going to discuss around this topic only. So as a quick introduction, this webinar is currently being hosted by KALP, and which is a leading digital and fiat payment orchestration platform. And we are dedicated to helping business create seamless payment experiences, enabling them to grow and scale effortlessly in a global marketplace. So my name is Dipesh Nagpal, your host for today's session. Let's meet our esteemed panelists who will be sharing their insights. So first, we have Mr. Ben, who is the founder and CEO of Transactapay, who brings a wealth of experience in digital payment solution. So welcome, Ben, and thank you so much for joining in. Could you
Thank you
please?
very much.
So Ben is currently representing the Transactapay, and we have another panel who is Mrityunjaya. So we call him Jay. So he's our co-founder and CEO of KALP Studio. So welcome, Jay. Thank you so much for joining in this session.
Thanks, Abes.
Okay, so it's good to see you all here. So now let's start with the session. So we'll be discussing a couple of topics related to payments, right? So starting with the payment orchestration, which is quite mainstream and a lot of news coming in. So let's jump right into it. So now the payment orchestration is becoming crucial for businesses, especially if they expand, globally, and when they, sort of one payment company or payment gateway tries to go expand globally. So there are some challenges, and with digital and fiat payments evolving, so it's essential to understand the current trends, the challenges businesses face, and how we navigate them in order to build a global payment infra. So Ben, as a product leader, what are some of your trends that you see in digital and payment orchestration globally?
So yes, listen, payments is an industry that's moving rapidly. Each each year it's a different ball game and it's moving super quick. So if you look a bit historically, we will see that a few years ago, banking wise, we had mainly Swift. Crypto was left behind. It was still not highly orthodox. It wasn't part of the base infrastructure, no blockchain involved, no nothing. So everything was based on Swift, and payments is classic Visa, Mastercard, Visa, Amex, and so forth. And in the end, everything comes to time. How long will the client get paid? How long will the merchant get paid? In the end, it's a business. Everyone want to get their money and funds as fast as possible. And those infrastructure, started in the 70s, the 80s, 60s, many years ago. So from that standpoint, we see a huge trend now in mobile payments, in digital wallets, of course, blockchain involved, and it's amazing that you can see how quick someone can get a confirmation for his payment. It's crazy. It's an amazing thing. In the end of the day, if let's take for example Africa. In Africa, it's very unique that nobody has almost a bank account. It's very hard to get a bank account. But with payments innovation, they have what's called mobile payments, mobile money. And once you get your mobile SIM, you can connect it to a digital wallet on your mobile, and off you go, you get a, kind of a sort of a bank account that you can pay with instantly. And that's amazing. And you can get funds, pay, and so forth. And it's very common there. And we at Transactapay, we have unique clientele coming from the gaming industry, crypto, forex, and many others. So from that standpoint, we see a huge trend. If you go into trends, moving from classic Europe to Africa, Latam, India, Southeast Asia, non-classic Western world, if I can call it that way. And there in those jurisdictions, there's always a need for a huge usage for digital wallets, some local APMs, which is short for alternative payment methods, and it's commonly used there. So we see this trend dramatically moving forward, and we as an orchestration try to do our best to connect all the dots all the time and to assist our merchants. We have all the APMs and the more that we can to provide those local methods that they can use because it's highly common. For example, Brazil have Pix. If you heard of Pix, they kind of control 90% of the market. It's crazy. Nobody has a bank card there. Nobody uses a classic credit card, Visa, MasterCard, but everyone has Pix. So if you have Pix, you're in the game. So that's a huge trend. Those digital wallets, and of course, there's crypto. And I believe Jay has more insights than me on the crypto space. But yes, it's huge. It's amazing that you can see a confirmation in 2 minutes. You can know
Yeah.
exactly what's going on. You don't have to wait
Yeah,
so
that's
long.
very interesting insight from you, Ben, related to, the African and other geographic landscapes and how payments are evolving and what sort of problems are there in those economic regions. And, so let's hear from Jay, like what are his thoughts on this particular stuff.
No, awesome. Thanks, Ben. So I think Ben already covered so many areas how where payment is basically making impact, right? I would say impact because payment is very important for the business, for the consumers, right? Yeah, so cryptocurrency is definitely changing the world, how people are, making transactions, how people are transferring money from one country to another country. But there are a couple of other things also that I would like to share because I'm coming from digital wallet industry. The wallet is still there, right? If you see that, as Ben mentioned, African country, so M-Pesa has changed the entire payment landscape over there. Like I would say Zimbabwe, Kenya, 90% people are using M-Pesa because there is no bank as Ben mentioned, right? So digital wallet is still changing the payment industry in different countries, right? In India, if you see, before UPI, Paytm wallet was there, right? So Paytm wallet actually taught us that how to use QR code to make the payment in India, right? Now UPI is completely changed the payment, right? So yes, the digital wallet is still there, and that is changing the mode of payment, how people are transacting. Second, recently it's very fancy, I would say. So if you go any shop and you use your mobile phone, right, just to make the payment through NFC, right, or you just use your Apple Watch or Samsung Watch, right, you can easily make the payment. So it's very important for the customer, for the consumer, that what kind of uh, frictionless experience you are providing to your customer, right, to make the payment. So yes, Apple Watch, Samsung Watch, they are making this experience, they're providing such kind of experience to customer. And second, from the business point of view, uh, taking the payment, right? So earlier, if you see, taking payment is very, very critical or very important for the business, right? Suppose I'm opening my store. So how easily I can collect payment from my customer, right? If you can provide such kind of experience, such kind of ease to your customer, then it's very important. So yes, contactless payment is definitely, I would say it's the next thing for the between customer and the merchant. So now earlier cryptocurrency was just a kind of a asset, but now if you see, especially after coming of this stable coin, right, USDT, USDC, Ripple recently launched their own stable coin. So because that is equivalent to your fiat currency, uh, so now people can use this cryptocurrency to make the payment, right? Not just Bitcoin. Bitcoin definitely is there, that's is there in the market. But apart from Bitcoin, Ethereum, people can use these stable coins to make the payment, right? So yes, cryptocurrency is changing the world, especially in the payment industry. And as I mentioned, it's very important how easily you can take the payment, right? So if you see, like Ben mentioned, gaming industry is very important, that how seamless experience you can provide to your customer, right? So there is concept called embedded payment, right? Embedded system, right? So that you can embed your wallet or embed your payment mechanism so that you can easily collect the payment from your customer, your gamer, correct? So yes, embedded payments, I would say, is really trending, especially in the gaming industry, or maybe mobile app like Uber, or maybe any e-commerce industry where you want to collect payment from your customer. There is really one interesting area, especially in India, because I can see, right, buy now pay later, right? So if you are a college grad, right, if you're studying in college, and you don't have so much money, right? Because you have to take pocket money from a parent, right? But if you have this feature, if you have this mechanism where you can buy things and you can pay later, maybe after 30 days, right? So this buy now, pay later is very trending, especially in Indian market. Now, I recently saw in Dubai market also is very trend, in Middle East also. So yeah, so these are a couple of things that I personally saw here, especially Indian market and Middle East market, Deepesh.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting insights from Jay. Thank you so much, Jay. Related to embedded payments, related to cryptocurrency and NFC. So these are pretty, you can say, the future of payments. Now, if you go to any shop and you can make any sort of payments in a couple of seconds by your smartwatch. So this is pretty interesting use case. And I've seen like this is growing exponentially. And
Yeah.
thank you, Jay, for your inputs. Now, since we have touched on the multi-currency part and the multi-channel solutions and embedded payments, right? Do you see any specific emerging technologies or innovations that are poised to disrupt the payment orchestration space in near future? Like Ben, what are your thoughts on this part?
So yes, we currently, for example, in Transactapay has few crypto solution embedded already in our platform because, as Jay says, it became kind of a mainstream to use your crypto wallet and pay wherever. So yes, it's currently kind of a mandatory thing to have all the options because part of the things that you want to have in this highly developed technology world is to have all the options in place because all the rest your competition has them also. So if you're not there, you're not in the game. So it's highly important to cover all aspects of the payments, if it's cards, if it's local APMs, wallets, and of course, crypto also. I've seen businesses that even have almost 100% of their business is based on accepting crypto payments, which is an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting insights from your side, Ben. And yeah, a lot of pretty exciting developments happening around this space. Now, what role do you see in, like we have seen the emerging technologies like AI, like Gen AI, Chat GPT, how these sort of tools are, sort of playing and as a catalyst in sort of improving the payment ecosystem and, the future of payment orchestration and personalization and commercial, customer experience. So what are your thoughts on this, Jay?
So customer experience, definitely that's a very interesting area, right? But AI is especially in payment industry, not for the Chat GPT side, right? That is kind of personal assistant for me. For the payment side, I would say how you can protect your transaction, how you can protect your data, right? Your customers' data, right? So AI is really helping for payment industry, right? To prevent any kind of fraud that is happening, right? How you can monitor transaction, how you can send the alerts to the companies, to the government, right? To different regulatory bodies, right? That's very important. So I think AI is playing very important role for the fraud protection. Number two, sending real-time alerts, right? Number three, the behavior analysis. Suppose, especially there are so many scams happening in around the world, right? So AI can play very important role to prevent those kind of scams, right? So I believe AI is really important and playing very important role, especially in these three areas, Dipesh.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing and pretty interesting. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this, Ben? Like when we sort of challenges are there when expanding globally, and there are some new gen technologies like AI, and how these sort of things are impacting, and what sort of challenges that you see while expanding globally.
I very agree with what Jay said because in the end of the day, AI is like how I say to my son, it's like one big brain that knows everything and you need to adjust it to the right area. So in payments is coming from first fraud detection, will be much more easy to identify with the current. You currently have a lot of solutions that connect to many databases, and you can identify which card, person, or other factor in the processing flow seems suspicious. There's many factors for that, but using AI, you can 10 times be much more efficient with identifying those type of cases. So yes, preventing scams, identity thefts, and many difficult things that hard to identify in the end of the day. So fraud definitely is one of them. On the same note, I can say from my side as an orchestration platform that I've seen a lot of merchants that have difficulties with using correctly the payment solutions themselves. Because, for example, when you get some sort of decline, declines can come from many, many reasons, right? And it can be the client doesn't have any money, wrong CCV, wrong address, and many other factors that can decline the transaction. And I've seen firsthand many merchants that have difficulties with understanding what is the reason. And if they don't understand the reason, it's very hard to explain the client what they need to do in order to make the transaction work. So I truly believe also AI can work in that the merchant landscape, some sort of a personal payments AI assistant to also increase the approval ratio firsthand with working with the merchants themselves, also on the back end to improve the whole flow of the mechanism of approving and decline transactions.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting insights from your end, Ben. We have also seen this sort of challenges while while accepting the card payments, wrong CVV is entered, and there are some other, parameters that needs to be provided to the card, the, processor, so that there is a EBS score that has to be checked, right? So, the frictionless flow, to ensure that there are a lot of challenges, and, with the help of AI, we can, sort of enhance that customer experience, right? So this is pretty interesting insights from your end, Ben. And now let's go to the next question. We have also discussed, the challenges of like how, AI can sort of be a catalyst while expanding globally and, in payment instruments. Now let's discuss the challenges of local regulations and, payment fragmentation when it comes to compliance. How do you see evolving regulatory landscape after affecting the payment orchestration in next 3 to 5 years? What are your thoughts on this, Ben?
So regulation is becoming tougher and tougher by the year, and we can see that. Of course, European regulation is coming, is leading, regardless to the US one, which is super strict. Me coming from the gaming and FX space and crypto space, which are highly regulated, we see this firsthand. So regulation is tough. The funny thing is that with the innovation, regulation has a tendency to fall behind innovation. Meaning, if someone invents something, regulation will start to understand it 2 3 years after. So there's always this type of a gap. And when I'm talking about this gap, it's regarding, for example, digital wallets, which I see less regulation in those areas and a bit more easy to manage from merchant perspective, other than, for example, standard credit cards that has a lot of rules, a lot of guidelines, do's and don'ts. There's a lot of things you cannot do with digital wallets, which is, again, a very new landscape. It's still easier to work from that perspective. And again, it comes for approval, higher approval ratios, and again, easier management in the end of the day. Just easier you need less people in order to understand how those mechanism works. And unlike Visa, MasterCard, classic card schemes there that are much more complex systems. So we need more people and more experienced people in order to understand how to manage it correctly. So like the code thing, as discussed earlier, digital wallets, it's much more simple, has much lesser codes than Visa, MasterCard. In Visa, MasterCard, you have one code for processing FX, one code for processing crypto, one code for purchasing an iPhone. It doesn't matter. And in digital wallets, it's much more simple. You don't have that. So the regulation has a huge impact on the way that client merchants can work. And in effect, in the end of the day, on the clients themselves just want to have a seamless experience. And if the regulation is simple and the solution is more simple, and the merchant has the ability to work quicker, we get also happier clientele in the end.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting insights from your end, Ben. So now let's talk about the way forward. What steps should businesses take effectively to scale their payment orchestration solutions globally while staying ahead of the trends and overcoming challenges? So Jay, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, Dipesh. So I think, yeah, so one is the trends, definitely, right? And the compliance that Ben mentioned, there are so many compliances, but compliances is there, but I think first innovation come, right? Because if you see now there are so many compliances coming for crypto. Earlier there was no compliance, there was no regulation, right? First innovation, then regulatory challenges, compliances comes. Uh, from adoption point of view, I think still I believe user experience, right? Because user experience is very, very important for the customer and for the business, right? What kind of ease you are providing, what kind of speed of transaction that you have, right? Transparency, right? What kind of transparency you are providing to your customers, right? And I think very important thing that is currently happening in the payment industry is the personalization, right? What kind of personalization you can provide to your customer, your user, right? So that he can easily make the payment, right? So yes, the regulation definitely that is playing very important role. Innovation is the another one, and user experience, right? So these are the three core areas where I think we have to see. If you see this stable coin, cross-border payments through CBDC, that is also happening. So that is solving these three main things, right? If suppose you are CBDC for the cross-border payment, right? It means you are solving the total turnaround time, right? How fast money is moving from one country to another country, as well as you are solving the regulation of these two different countries, right? So yes, these new innovations will solve these two challenges: the faster transactions, right, faster settlement, and the regulations and compliances from different bodies. That's my thought.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting insights from your end, Jay. So yes, in terms of orchestration, complying with the regulations and building the payment solution in such a way that you keep up with the industrial trends, and you build a user experience in such a way that you ensure there is a low drop rate in terms of payment. So yeah, it's a combination for success when you combine a strong partnership, agility, and security, and also complying with the different compliance, regulatory compliance like NPCI, RPI, and the global regulations, and complying with the networks as well, Visa, Mastercard. So
Yes.
yeah, it's going to be a success, like if we combine all sort of things. Yeah, thank you, Ben and Jay, for sharing your insights. Now let's focus on scalability. Now there are a lot of challenges, when companies scale. Let's say there is an SME, and when they want to scale their operation, they get a lot of traffic, and in terms of scalability, there are a lot of regulations comes in. Like you might want to take card transactions on your platform. There is a PCI DSS that you have to go through, and there are a lot of challenges consumers face or merchants face while scaling globally, and also scaling the platform. So what's your what advice do you suggest for new businesses looking to scale their the payment ecosystem within their organizations, and how effectively they can sort of target new regions when they have limited expertise going live? So Ben, what would you like to say on that part?
Thank you. So I will say that it all depends on, let's start from strategy. What you want to do, achieve, and how. Once you understand your market target, the local landscape, and again, roughly volume, then it will be wise to look one step ahead, because there's kind of a misunderstanding in the world that everyone thinks that everyone is a one-stop shop. Meaning, have a client comes in, he market, for example, Europe, Latam, and India, and he say, I have one solution, it covers all. And I usually try to explain that in most cases, I will not have one solution covers all. This is why we have the orchestration. What? Because we have integrated and embedded in our platform solutions for Europe, different solutions for Latam, and Latam is huge, right? You have Brazil, you have Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, and so forth. And you have India, which is also a huge jurisdiction by itself. And each one, as discussed earlier, have its own regulation and needs and requirements. So it's kind of, unfortunately, you don't have one-stop shop for all, other than Stripe, for example. But there are not many Stripes in the world. And also Stripe doesn't accept every company on earth. And there's also regulation and compliance and requirements. So again, it's a complex industry, it's a complex world, and you need to understand from scratch what you want to achieve, break it down into specific geos, and then look and understand locally what are the APMs that are usually involved. And now it's honestly very easy to do that with simple ChatGPT query, can ask the ChatGPT, give me the most common APMs, payment methods in this geo, for example, and then you get it. It's kind of very simple. Keep in mind, ChatGPT is like your own small personal assistant. It can answer many things that Google had difficulties to answer, but put it on the side. So start from strategy. Once you understand that, you should use in any cashier or orchestration platform that you work with a smart routing and cascading systems. Because in the end of the day, you have two methods of sending it transactions. You can, in Transactapay, for example, you can set and modify that client from UK will send to this PSP, and a client from India will send to a different PSP, and so forth. And even then, if you have, for example, for India, 3 PSPs, and you know that you have a preferred PSP to start with because you have better approval ratio, better pricing, doesn't matter. But let's take, for example, that a client didn't went through, for whatever reason, again, compliance and regulation, have a tendency to destroy and reduce approval ratios. And we don't always understand the reason, but that's the reason why we always have a backup solution. So you never work with one PSP, you have 2, 3, or more. Depends on the volume that you have. But this is, again, in order to increase approval ratio. So we have a client came from India, sent to this PSP, didn't went through, we don't know why, but automatically he sends to the third one, to the second one, which is kind of the cascading part, how to cascade the client step by step. So using those methods will be the smart way to utilize your current payment solutions that you work with in EGO.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting insights from your end, Ben. And obviously, that's a pretty solid strategy. So, Ben, when it comes to expanding globally, there are a lot of challenges, the local businesses face. And, there are some, big mistakes, that happen while expanding globally. So what do you suggest, like what sort of things the businesses should avoid when they're expanding globally? And what's your suggestions on this part? So
if you're talking about call centers, for example, don't use non-local agents. I've seen a lot of people using non-local agents who want to attract people from the UK, for example, and they used Eastern European sales agents. It's not that they're bad, they have an okay English, and that's fine. But in the end, the only way that a client can feel safe is to see someone similar to him on his end. So, and they speak the same language, not in English, but as mentality, as in culture. And once you have that, that's key for success in any business. And asking that part, by the way, it's always important to find a local payment guy or a local someone that you can trust and to work with, even without a call center, because understanding the local landscape is key for success. Without that, you can try 100 times, but then you understand you're missing this one thing nobody mentioned you about because you're not local, and it was missed because you don't know the local culture. So understanding local culture is the key, and the only way to do it is, again, with working with local professionals in that landscape. This kind of, I think, will be the best way to start. It takes more time, by the way. It's annoying because it takes time, but if you want to do it right, do it that way.
yeah, that's a pretty good suggestion. And for businesses who want to expand globally, and what sort of mistakes they should avoid. Thank you so much, Ben, on this part. And obviously, this is pretty good insight on that. So now, question to Jay. Now, as we see that companies expand globally, they might face several cultural differences in consumer behavior. Let's say in UPI, there is a user may expect the user experience to be like this. Now, if we take similar kind of experience to different countries, they may have different consumer behavior on the applications, right? So they might want a different UI, they might want a different user experience, right? Because since the other platforms which are there in the global ecosystem, they sort of have a different user experience. So now, when expanding the product globally, what sort of cultural differences in consumer behavior you see, and how businesses can ensure they're not offering the right payment methods, but also catering to different expectations of the different sort of global consumers. So what are your inputs on this, Jay?
So, yes, as Ben mentioned, that we need to understand the culture of that country, right? Suppose we are currently in India and now we want to do business in Dubai. Even though Dubai is very near from India, right? But still, there's a different culture. So we need to understand the culture first, I think, before doing any business over there. And yes, I agree with Ben that, if we can have people from that country, right? Because that will give you the complete picture, right? And that how people are interacting, what kind of payment mechanism they are using, right? And yes, definitely you should have your technical research, the compliances and everything. But from the business point of view, I would say number one, your strategy, as Ben mentioned, because whether you want to scale globally or not, right? Because if you see here in India, Uber is a global product, but Ola is especially for India, right? Because that is not their part of their strategy. So from the technical architecture point of view, also Uber has different architecture because the same application can handle multiple geography, multiple countries, right? So yes, it's important to first the strategy. Second, which particular country you are going to operate. Then you need local people, as Ben mentioned, right? Third, once you have these two things, right? Third is basically especially from the payment point of view, right? Because I can see uh, there are so many payment companies who are trying to enter into India, right? But because we have different compliances, we have so many compliances, but these companies are really good in different countries, right? They are doing pretty good. But India, we have different compliances. So yes, you need to understand compliances and you need solid, I would say, compliance team because if you want to really good do the payment business in particular country, right? So yes, you need solid compliance team also because here, if you see, right, we are going to launch our own action X2X, right, in Dubai, right? X2X that we're launching in Dubai, we have to follow so many compliances guidelines, right, from the BARA, right? So yes, you should have solid legal and compliance team, especially if you are doing business, especially countries where they have robust, compliance framework at the pace. Yeah. So I think that team is very important apart from to understand the culture.
A culture indeed plays an important role while expanding globally, and also to improve the user experience. You need to understand the culture over there, how consumers interact, how consumers pay over there. So yeah, that's pretty interesting insights from your end, Jay. So I guess let's thank you so much, Jay and Ben, for your inputs on that. Now, since we are running out of time, let's hear from the audience what they have to say or what sort of questions they have for us. So I have got one question. So there is an anonymous attendee who has asked this question: Payment orchestration being used just by JustPay has taken a hit as many PG providers, Razorpay, Cash Free, has moved away from JustPay. It's a major setback for payment orchestration players such as JustPay. How do you see this, and what would be the way forward? Okay, so I'll explain this question to Ben and Jay. So I think there has been a recent, disassociation of JustPay, which is one of the prominent payment orchestration player in India. So a lot of payment gateways like Razorpay and Cash Free, they have dissociated themselves from JustPay. Now, what sort of challenges and setback for this payment orchestration players like JustPay? How do you see this, and what do you suggest? What is going to be the way forward? So let's start with Ben. What are your take on this?
So I will say that I'm less familiar with the case mentioned, but on the same note, I can say from my side, I have a lot of merchants, as discussed, who want to target India. It's a huge market, it's an amazing market, it works well. Everyone wants to be there, right? And yet, Razorpay and all the other players are not usually in the high risk space. So for my side, when I'm talking about iGaming, casino, crypto, and others, usually I haven't seen Razer and the other players. So for me, it's kind of a less of a problem. The high risk players and PS processors are there. And then they always need cascading solutions and orchestration platforms like us in order to have more solutions as possible and then add them to the cascading system and smart routing plan and systems that we have, right? So I'm less familiar with the case, but for me, it's not a huge problem from my side. It's kind of part of the side of my business.
Yeah, makes sense, Ben. Yeah, thank you so much for your insights on this. Like Jay, what would you like to add something on this?
Deepesh, I think why this happened by the way, right? Because I think now there is some kind of fear that Razorpay, other companies they can see that because JustPay is currently capturing the pan India, right? They are capturing most of the customers, right? So that's the kind of fear that they are feeling. But yes, it completely depends on which particular industry your platform is targeting. Like Ben mentioned, gaming industry, you need high risk volume, right? You need high risk companies, right? Who can basically want to use their payment gateway in gaming industry, gambling industry, right? I think JustPay is not currently doing such kind of business, right? So it still completely depends what is your business and what is your customer audience, right? So if you are focusing on gaming industry, you are focusing on like different kind of activity like crypto or something, then I think this will not impact. But yes, you need to just make sure that because if you are just creating a kind of the middleware that is just connected with multiple payment gateways and your business is impacted, it means that you have to see future also that what kind of impact can be there in future, right? So definitely it's a good thing for the startup or for the newcomers that see things from the future perspective, not just rely that okay, one payment gateway is down, then what will happen to my business, right? So yes, so you have to have multiple partners so that your business will not be shut down, right? Your business will continue to run. So I think from the startup point of view, I think it's very important if you are creating a kind of aggregator, right? Not just rely on one or two companies, right? One or two partners, not companies, right? You should have really good number of partners, and that's why I believe. I personally also believe, and that's why we are partnering with Transactapay. Also, we have now partnered with Transactapay because they have their own strength, we have our own strength, right? So it's important to utilize and go together, right? So I think from the startup point of view, it's very important not put everything in one bucket. We should have multiple buckets.
Yeah, makes sense, Jay, and that's pretty interesting insights from your end. And I totally agree. Yeah, when expanding and this sort of challenge what JustPay is facing. So in orchestration, I think we can explore other ways like this partnership, how we can avoid this sort of situation by partnering with different payment gateways, different payment PSPs. So this sort of way we can help. And I would also like to add a few concerns like the questions somebody has raised. So what I feel is this has happened because JustPay has its own payment gateway as well, and JustPay is also a payment orchestration platform. So what happened is, let's say there are multiple players in place, Razorpay, PayU, Paytm. So what JustPay was doing, like from the report, what I can see. So what JustPay was doing, they have their own payment gateway as well. So they were transacting instead of being a orchestration platform, they were acting as a payment gateway, and they were accepting all the traffic on them on their own servers instead of passing that traffic to Razorpay, PayU, and Paytm. So I guess this is why a lot of payment gateways are the partners have decided to dissociate with them. So this is again what Razorpay just has told that they are not doing it, but they are exploring the ways to access their partnership and gain their trust. Now, I personally feel in terms of challenge, it's gonna be difficult for them to scale on initially. But yes, they'll have to explore some other ways, like instead of payment orchestration, they can do some sort of work on the payment instrument level orchestration, and also work on improving the user experience of payments. Or they can sort of explore other ways like being a token requester or something, because which is pretty essential nowadays when it comes to when we talk about the merchant ecosystem. So there are a lot of challenges. So I guess there are some unexplored areas which can be taken by these payment aggregators for now. So yeah, that's what I personally feel. And we have another question. So this question is from Himanshi. She's asking to Ben. So how does Transactapay stay compliant with regulatories like GDPR and PCI DSS and also kind of permissions, or like what sort of regulatory compliance, complying to the regulatories, do you find or feel is the most difficult and hardest to achieve?
So I would say that first of all, we have very strong dev team and legal team to keep track on the required local requirements, compliance, legal, and make sure we're up to date. And on the same note, to implement it in our platform, we're of course PCI compliant, and it's a very hard and complex certificate to issue. So we have that. So we're working strongly on all those aspects. And for your question, the hardest part is, I think, not the specific permission, but it's mainly hard to just keep track of everything, to get up to date on what is needed and where, because it's so constantly changing. And in this dynamic world that we live in, and small village that we're in, and yet so big, it's very hard to keep track on local requirements in India, Europe. GDPR is European, any other local requirements. So that's the hardest part, honestly.
That's a pretty interesting insight from your end, Ben. So yeah, I personally feel that this is the hardest one to keep a track of, the evolving changes of regulatories. And previously we saw 3ds 1.0. Now when 3ds 2.0 came into the picture, a lot of challenges came up, expanding globally while accepting card transactions. So the complete workflow that how consumers used to track on 3ds 1.0 has been changed when it went to 3ds 2.0, because they need additional parameters like your browser details, IP details, so that they'll be able to see whether this is to ensure that consumers actually go to the seamless flow instead of frictionless, friction flow or challenge flow, you
Yeah,
so yes, I
true.
guess this is pretty difficult to keep track of, this regulatory changes and complying with them. But yes, we are, we have to be on top of everything, and that's amazing, Ben. Thank you so much for your insights. So, do we have any other questions? Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you so much, Ben, for your inputs, and Jay for your inputs regarding the expansion is expanding globally and the challenges merchants face while expanding globally, and what sort of like how AI can streamline the payment experience, and the emerging technologies like NFC and NFC and embedded payments, how these sort of enhance the user experience and also the buyer seller experience. So yeah, that's pretty interesting insights from your from your end, Ben and Jay. Thank you so much for joining in, Ben and Jay. And these are pretty interesting insights from your end. So I hope everyone here learned a lot of insights from your end. So thank you so much for joining in, and I really appreciate your time, Ben and Jay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Same
This
here.
was
Thank you
again
very
really
much.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this session.
thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Have a good day. Cheers.